Welcome to an artist's life. I live by the sea in New England, and I love to share my quiet, simple life of art and garden and home. So I hope you will feel that you can come and join me. Welcome to an artist's life. Well, good day everyone, and this week we are going on another antique excursion. Today we're going back to a place I took you to before Christmas, and they've been shut down for a little while and they've opened back up. But it's a thrift shop just off Cape, and I thought we would start outside here. Look at these fun, now these aren't antiques, I can tell these are reproduction benches, but aren't they sweet with the octopus and the mermaid? And this also looks like a reproduction, but it looks like a good antique style, and I like that blue. It would be actually pretty in the apricot garden. And this fellow's interesting. I wouldn't necessarily want him for my garden, but he's pretty sweet. And this pretty painted wooden thing. I love, though I have many of these type of things in the boathouse and such, but old wooden things like that are just really nice to have. So here I got this in case anyone wants to go online and look them up, because I have had people in the past look up the places I've been. So look at this darling little quail. I'm like obsessed now with buying little porcelain quail, but it was a little bit pricey for the fact that it wasn't really anything that dear. And this actual piece of furniture is quite beautiful. And but I like this old basket, which was $75, which isn't too bad. And this pretty yellowware jug is nice, but it's $100, so it's a little out of my price range. A pretty little tea jar. I'm trying to go slowly just to kind of let you look at random things I might even not notice. I'll look at the little doll's house size butter churn, isn't that sweet? And of course, more quail. And oh, but that's too expensive, $100. And here we have a pretty blue and white tea caddy that was $65. On here is a really pretty, it's modern again, but a really nice whale. At $120, it was wood on a metal stand. And here's some pretty blue and white. Oh, here's a great old planer, that's nice. And this funny old photo, looks like it's from the 30s. Some irate uncle, it looks like. And oh, these are sweet. Actually, I want to get some more jadeite, or get some jadeite for if I do redo the kitchen ever finally. Those are not authentic jadeite, but I think I might get them because they weren't too expensive. These are pretty kind of 50s copper style canisters, some blue and white. And again, there's a mix, because it's a thrift shop and not just specifically an antique shop. There are going to be a mix of new and old, like the this butter dish, which is made to look 30s, I think is also a modern jadeite, but it's quite pretty. I love the green of this cabinet. In fact, this green in this cabinet would be great if I were to redo the kitchen. I would just leave that paint exactly and just get new handles, which it obviously looks like it needs new handles. And it still has the slats inside that you could move your shelves up and down or add more shelves. Oh, I like this pretty blue tea service. Again, it looks like it could be mid-century, but I think it might be a reproduction. It's kind of overpriced for what it is, and it had some chips in. This also looks like a modern piece. Oh, I love a cigar store Indian, although I'm pretty sure this is a reproduction as well, but he's still a pretty good specimen. A good height. Now this piece here looks to be a remade modern piece, but it was nice with the oh, and here's a teapot that goes with that set, but you can see it has a broken bottom. And $45 for a teapot that I'm not sure of its age or its condition. So let's just look back at part of the inside of this big place. You can see some lovely copper weather vanes and a hanging whale sign, which are all new but look nice and would certainly get a lovely patina if they were left outside. Oh, here's a sweet little lusterware jug, a copper lusterware. Well, that was only $15. That's not a bad price for that. And here's some other little fun treasures in this cabinet, just random things, but fun to look at. Oh, this is sweet, this sort of miniature size, dollhouse size. It's not really dollhouse, I'd say it's more a doll size, just not a dollhouse size. It was nice, but it was 100. I think it's a bit too much. So let's just have a little browse this way and a slow pan around. I may break this up into two visits as I did our other visit. Oh, here's that same bench, but in a white. It's quite a nice shape. And of course, these are always popular. These are just reproductions. These are the glass floats that were used by fishermen for quite a long time. Blown glass woven in a fishing line to hold up lines of fishing nets. So $28. But again, these are reproductions, but they're still really pretty, and I always mean to get more. I have a few of these small size like this, which I think would be really pretty to do on my nautical tree, which I did not share this Christmas, so this coming Christmas I'll have to share my nautical tree. Oh, this is a pretty little side table. These sort of side tables are just, you can never have enough of them. You always need them. There's always a bed needing one, or a little table sitting somewhere, and for $75, which you could probably get it for $60. And of course, I do love my little wooden cutouts. That's not bad, only $18. And some little bits and bobs here. Another glass float. The actual antique glass floats, which are really beautiful and can be quite expensive, are really nice because they'll get turned in the sea. Ooh, I love this library ladder. That would be pretty for a project I'm thinking of. And here's some really lovely china. I would have to guess maybe 30s to 40s. And another pan around. Here we have a fox weather vane and a cockerel. And in the back you can see the big Welsh dresser we were just at, which had the blue willow and the blue and white on. This is kind of a pretty little candelabra. It's modern again, but could be done nicely. And a horse weather vane in copper. A glut of glass floats. And you can see it has, oh, I like this. This, again, a project I told you I'm thinking of, this little tea trolley. And again, I'm not sure if this is actually an old piece or if it's made from disparate parts to look like an old piece. Like those look like old wheels from a baby pram, but it could be a tea trolley. So we'll have to think about that because I have a project I'm thinking of doing in my kitchen. This is adorable. For someone who loves miniatures and dollhouse things, this is really unique and such a great use of an old piece. This is an old 1930s radio, which of course has had its guts removed, and in its place has been made a little two-story doll's house. Here, let me see if I can get the front. Look how pretty with the light shining through the glass where the mesh would have been, where the volume would have come out. And look at the little couple upstairs, and I think that they're made from clothes pegs. And then a stair down. Look at how sweet, and a little telephone and a little bed. That is really an adorable use of that. Here's a pretty old chest. I have many wooden chests in the house. A nice, lovely, creepy porcelain doll. A pair of old braces hanging. Just overall, it's a great look. I'll probably see more things I didn't see when I edit. Oh, this is pretty milk glass. It's quite clear milk glass. Probably 50s or 60s. I don't usually see it rimmed in gold. That's kind of pretty. It has a little sugar bowl. And of course I love the stoneware is very New England. This would be beautiful on a counter with your wooden utensils in. Oh, I love, this is a pretty dress. But I know it's already too pricey, and I think I'm not thin enough to wear it, but it had my favorite flower, Lily of the Valley. Oh, and look at the pretty Hitchcock chairs. These could be reproduction Hitchcocks, but of course Hitchcock chairs in the Victorian time were like the first sort of mass-produced chairs. And always finding funny lamps. This one's really interesting because it's made out of an old blowtorch. It's kind of pretty for $55. Be nice in a gentleman's study. And let's have another look over here. Oh, look at the sweet little hedgehog statue and the little cyclamen on the teacup. Look at this darling hedgehog. Oh, he's adorable. I think he could go in my... Oh, and he's not resin. I think he's actually old clay or some kind of ceramic. He's really adorable. He may have to come home. If he doesn't live in my garden, what is the price? He can live in possibly my new little idea. I'm thinking of doing a little bit of a garden or a plant room at the end of the kitchen. So he's a possibility. Oh, I love... They have some pretty Victorian clothing here. But this skirt, now it's labeled Victorian. I don't know if it's actually just a newer piece. It could have been made in the 1990s to look old, but it's really nice cotton, so I'm going to think about that one. And look at all the pretty jet work on this old Victorian piece, which I am far too tall to wear, but I certainly can appreciate the lovely beadwork. Oh, and here's I think this is a Spode mug. I think it's from the Blue Room collection. Let me see what it says here. I know they did a series of old reprints of old things. Let's see, yes, Spode Blue Room collection, Greek, first introduced in 1806, which makes sense because 1806 was neoclassicism, and so Greek motifs would have been very popular. So, and this mug is only $2, so I think that will have to come home with me. And I think I'll save the rest of this trip for the next week's vlog. Now, back into the car and on our way home. Home again, chickadee chick. I thought I would show off our lovely antique finds today, and my darling tea trolley turned out to be quite the little find. And of course we can't miss out our sweet little hedgehog. Isn't he adorable? And back there you can see we have our Spode mug, currently holding the wooden pegs that I use to mark my seedlings. And of course remember the plants we got last week, and even this beautiful blue and white container we got in the previous week at the other antique shop. And you can see over here we have the darling neo-Gothic chair. Now this end of my kitchen I've used for many things, but lately I've been wanting to start a plant room. And when I saw this darling oak tea trolley at the antique shop, I knew it was kismet and I needed to make my little darling room. And here you can see last week's planting I didn't share of the peperamia and the begonia, happily enjoying the second shelf of our new tea trolley in our plant room. And do have to apologize, these windows may look dirty, but they actually are not dirty. They are simply fogged because they are windows put in 1949, and during Hurricane Bob the seals broke. And it's on our list to replace them one day, but my real hope one day is, rather than just to replace them, is when they come out, we'll bump out this end here and possibly make a little, maybe an 8x8 or 10x10 room, and make it into sort of a little mini conservatory off the kitchen, and it could really be my little plant room. But for now, I'm just enjoying it as it is, with the light streaming through, our new little treasured vines, a lovely place to keep plants on window ledges and shelves, a place to start seedlings, and of course a place to sit at great-grandfather's old desk and enjoy the sea view. Least we forget the little jadeite measuring cups as well. So I think we had a rather fruitful trip to the antique shop, and now a reason to start a new little plant room. Before I enjoy my new vintage skirt on our walk, I thought I would enjoy something I do love to do, having my skirts trail in the sand. The joy of a new old skirt. Well, let's head off for our walk. And it actually looks like there may be rain, so I've got my brolly, because you never know. And of course, I always have my wellies on. So let's head on down, and we'll take a walk I've taken you on many times, but it's one of my favorites for a quick morning walk. So let's head down and do that. You know, we've had, even though it looks like it's going to rain, I'm still taking off for a walk today because we've had about 3 or 4 days of icy cold weather, below freezing weather. But the sun was out. So of course I can't help but want to go out. Now of course I did still walk when it was freezing, and we've had some wonderful really high and very low tides. But today, even though there's a promise of rain, which I actually rather love, the temperature is about 45 Fahrenheit, so it feels quite balmy compared to 25 Fahrenheit, which it was yesterday. So I figure as long as I have my brolly and a raincoat on, let's keep our plans to walk to the dock. Now, those of you who've been with me for a while will know that I've taken this walk many times. Walking to the neighbor's dock off of our beach is just a fun walk I love to take all seasons, and it's always different at different times of the year. When you see it at high tide, it can come right up to the cover the pilings and go right over the beams of the dock itself, and makes an amazing magical sound. And then there's also the very, very low tide, which I still have not taken you at the lowest tide, where you can walk straight out under the dock and enjoy it. And as we come up to the old pilings here, I've mentioned this before in my walk, these metal rods pounded into the beach, one here and one there, have been there, heavens, well over 20 years at least. We used to use one of them to tie our dinghy up, and then we had a system where we had the line here and there, and our dinghy would be out so it would float on the tide, and then when we needed it with our little pulley system, we'd pull the dinghy towards us. That was on the days we didn't use the neighbor's dock to get out to the boat. That was a nice treat, which we didn't always do, but it was nice. When we would sail for a long 2+ week stay on the vineyard, we often would do it because we'd have coolers full of food. Even though once on the vineyard it's fun to go and get replenishments of groceries and things, but it's nice to go prepared. And of course you want to have your wine and cheese and things to enjoy, because the trip was we always made it was a big trip because you had to go through Woods Hole, you had to wait for the tide, you'd often stop on the islands there, and you'd want to stop and draw anchor, go for a swim, enjoy some cheese and crackers and wine. So, but on normal days when we just go out for a quick day sail, we often would just wheel in our dinghy from those two metal pilings and the pulley system, and then row out to, you can just sort of see a yellow buoy bobbing up and down. That is actually our neighbors just put in a new mooring to keep their sailboat there, but that's right about where we used to keep our mooring. We sadly no longer have our sailboat. It was a 30-foot Morgan. I love that boat, but boats are quite expensive. And now that we are the caretakers of Bunny Hall, we focus on just trying to keep Bunny Hall afloat, as it were. So yes, it is a gray, overcast day, and the last few days have been sunny, and I thought about taking us for our walk on then. It was quite chilly. I just was busy. I still went for walks. I just forgot to grab my camera, as I still have to recall I'm a YouTuber, so I should have my camera with me all the time. But some days I get up and start living my life and think, oh gosh, I'm supposed to be recording this. But as we continue on along the shore here now to our neighbor's dock, we've just started to leave our beach, and Now we're at the neighbors. They have a nice bit of field here, and then it leads up to a bit of their woodland, and then up to their house, which sits up on the hill. We sit quite close to the sea, whilst they're up higher, so their view of the sea is from further away. But they built their house later, so I think they were worried about tides rising, but... And here we go. And if you will notice, I'm showing off. I already showed off my new vintage skirt, wearing it long underneath my Victorian dress and letting it trail in the sand, which is fun. But it also, sitting at my natural waist, is a perfect length for just an everyday skirt. So I'm showing off another antique store find today, and I think it does. Though it looks lovely with Victorian boots, it looks equally as good with a pair of wellies. So I like to use the things I buy, and per usual, when I film on our shore, I can't tell you the number of hours that go by without a sound except for birds and waves. But as soon as I turn on that camera, a small plane comes by. Such the life of a YouTuber. Oh, and here, we call this saute. This is all the grass that gets broken up from the sea, and it gets pushed up and it dries in the sun. And we use it to mulch our flower beds, and sometimes I mulch my veg, it depends. It does have salt in, but sometimes I'll spray it off. But I also figure if our plants can't handle a little salt water, then they may not want to live in this garden. So here we can stop and see that little spit of land sticking out, which belongs to our neighbors across the way. You can see their gray and white house and their little white boathouse. That is their bit of land, and it is called Treasure Island. Thus named by, I think, their matriarch years ago. Their kids who have kids always called it Treasure Island. And it's a fun place to swim to across from our beach. It's in the center between this dock and Treasure Island is where it's trenched. So even at low tide, there will always be at least a few feet of water in there, so that if a returning boat comes, we still have a way to kind of get in, although we do still mainly depend on the tides. But it's a great spot to swim, to jump off here, dive and investigate under the pilings with your snorkel into the deep part of the trench, and then up onto the soft sand. On the other side, the sand tends to be softer and not quite as rocky over there, so I often swim from our own rocky shore to the soft sandy bit over there, which is great to sit in the sand for hours and watch horseshoe crabs scuttle through the sea, collect up treasures to put in pockets. And of course my swimming costume is quite generous, so I have places to put things. No bikinis worn here. So here we are to the dock, and onto, I love all the salt hay piled up as it gets pushed up along the dock, and it's nice and dry now because the tide's been out for a while and we haven't had any rain, though we are expected to get rain. So let's head out onto the dock and just sit and enjoy the lovely warm for me, day, and the overcast sky and the promise of rain, and the enjoyment of kicking about our newly acquired antique skirt. Simple things amuse simple minds, I guess they say. I love the being able to look down over the railings here. Now, if it were summer, we'd see so many lovely different fish. I've set little minnow traps here and caught various fish because often I like to keep an aquarium in the summer with buckets of salt water that I change every other day from our own beach. And whatever I catch, plants, crabs, snails, and I let them live in there for a few days, and then onwards and upwards they return to the bigger home, and I find more of their chums to amuse me. Look how pretty it is with the water down. See the beauty of the movement of the water. Isn't that lovely? and all the barnacles. Now just imagine warm summer waters and a snorkel and goggles and splashing and diving down in there and watching the fish swim in schools and shoals and the sun breaking through and running your hands through the seaweed. The joy of summer by the sea. It shall return, but today it is chilly-ish spring, promise of rain, a gray sky, and look at the beauty. So of course we have to sit on the dock and dangle our feet and admire our lovely new old skirt. And look down and imagine it's a warm August day and we can just plunge deep into the waters and swim out and see the fish and the plants and the sea life in the trench, and then swim across and land on Treasure Island, crawling on our sandy tummies onto the sea and letting the warm summer sun dry off our bathing costume as we look and line up the treasures we've collected from the beach. Shells, crab casings, mermaids' purses. But today, it's a chilly spring day, so we can just sit and enjoy, look back at our own boathouse and dream of what might become of her one day, and just enjoy the moment. I can tell a storm is coming because the birds are rather quiet right now. Often when I take this walk, they're out in droves flying over. And the other day, a big gang of geese, those who decided to go south, returned, and such a cacophony of sound they made. They're honking and calling to one another. Oh, I think I just heard thunder. Maybe we will get our rain, as promised. And I have to say, sitting inside on a spring day when the rain is coming down is the best time to work on artwork. So maybe we should head back before the rain comes. So let's head on back home before the rain starts. And, ooh, you know what? I'm feeling some drops. This is when you're glad you were smart enough to walk with your brolly. I treat walks here, particularly this time of the year, as if I'm in England and never go for walks without an umbrella or proper coat and good footwear. Makes a world of difference to whether you enjoy a walk or not. So let's head back home, and if the rain continues, and even if it don't, we'll enjoy our afternoon drawing and making some art. So let's head on back. Ooh, the rain is just starting to come. Let's look back quickly. Goodbye, dock. Goodbye, boathouses. Goodbye, empty summer houses waiting for the summer to return. Goodbye, Treasure Island. And hello to getting back inside before the rain gets us. And home again, jiggity jig. And the rain's really starting, so maybe we better use a bit of magic to get back home. Don't just stand there. Come on, we have to go inside and work on artwork. And before we get on to our artwork for the week, let's have a look back to earlier in the week when we had a random snow squall. And yet today it is quite balmy and thunderstorms. Just another week in New England. Now let's get back to this week's artwork. This week's sketch is going to be another in our current series of a lady with an animal or animals. I think this week it will probably be one. And starting as I usually do, I have done some previous studies and then I start sketching out on multiple layers. Usually at this stage I start out with a sort of a skeletal rough sketch on one layer, and then the second layer is the sort of outlined, almost cartoon-like version of finding the basic shape of the animal and the lady, figuring out where I want how I want to flesh out the outfit or how I want the pet to sit more specifically. And then at this stage, I'm on probably about 4 layers at this point, and using my digital chalk and pastels, I go in and I start underpainting. And when I underpaint, obviously I just take the base color of what I'm going to build upon. So the fleshy peach colors for her skin, and the orangey reds for her hair and for the fox, and then trying to really play with colors for dress here, and maybe adding little highlights with gold as I've done here. And then I can start going in and working on highs and lows, bringing in shadow and highlights, just as I would normally. And I really do enjoy this level of my sketches, although I've begun to stop thinking of them as sketches, since I know many have really enjoyed the final piece. When I finish a study in chalk, it has a much looser feel. And I enjoy both a loose feel as well as a more honed, or when I do my digital oils, it's much more, I guess I'm much more thoughtful about how I place things, where when I do my sketches, I'm much freer, which is also why I enjoy doing, when I do life drawing, I love the 1 and 5 minute poses, because you're restricted by that time frame. So your arm and eye is able to just make quick dashes of lines of charcoal or pen to try to figure out the figure. I think that's how I look at doing my chalk studies. So here we have the lady, and she's all roughed out. Now she of course will also end up in final oil as well, but in this case I'm going to keep working on her in chalk, and then when I make her available for sale as a print or on things, she will also be on both in her rough chalk phase as well as a more less outlined, more detailed digital oil phase as well. And I've really been enjoying sharing these pieces with you. I'm really enjoying doing the ladies with animals. It's just been a fun, kind of a little break from just doing just animals, although I think my next series will probably be focused on just the animals themselves. In fact, I was thinking it might be kind of fun to sort of do a play on this with, say, an animal as the sort of the lady, and then another animal as her pet. So that's something I'm going to kind of toy with. And then next week I might be doing another fun little illustration that I'll be able to share with you. So, and I will probably have the finished pieces of both this and the lady with a pug finished by next Sunday's vlog. So I'll share all links and things with that then. Well, thank you for sharing this portion of my vlog when I share my drawings. Now for one of my little seaside interludes. Heaven knows I show my view often enough, but I was just in my studio, and the sun, although the clouds keep coming through, but the sun was just so brilliant on the sea through the window of my studio, I just had to come out and capture it. It's a little windy today, but boy, you can feel the promise of spring. And here's a sort of middling tide. On my last vlog I shared almost the flats, and we saw the spitting rock completely exposed. Here we can see it's about midway. And Algernon Siegel's flat rock is quite nicely exposed, but no algae to be seen. But look at lovely, soft cotton clouds, the sparkle of the sea. And still bare trees, because here it is only March, but so much promise of the coming spring. And that's just another little fun interlude in this week's video. Well, thank you everyone for joining me on this week's vlog. And I thought I'd start with, I'm wearing my hat that I love with the feathers on, because one of the wonderful new treasures I got at this week's antiquing trip was this beautiful original Victorian collar. It's so beautiful. It's really delicate silk with satin ribbon, and it has little hooks, and it has the old pictures inside. But I wanted to show that it also is amazing as hat decoration. In fact, I'm not quite convinced that it's actually not a widow's cap that you would wear on the back of your head over your the mob cap that you would wear as a widowed woman. But anyway, isn't it amazing on this hat? So I'll probably use this in many things. And it's really delicate silk and has so many details of all the little hand ruching on the edges. And I probably should just keep it special hanging up, but I won't be able to help but have to wear it. So, but I hope you enjoyed this week's outing to the antique shop and our fun drawing. I'm going to be doing, hopefully next week I'll have both this drawing and the lady with a pug finished, and so if that will be available for sale and such, I'll let you know about that. Oh, and I also was excited because we've been having to wait a lot in the US for seeds to be delivered, and I finally got my second shipment of Johnny's seeds. So I got some more seeds to make my apricot peach colored flower garden I'm hoping to make. So I'll just list them off, and I'll probably put an image up somewhere of the flowers just so you can see. So I'm looking for basically peach and pink colors. So I have a iron apricot stock, and I love stock. It smells heavenly. It's very spicy, and it's edible, so you can put it into salads, which I love to do. And then I have dianthus, which is a type of carnation. I love dianthus, and they do really well here, and they are perennials. This is a Shabbat orange sherbet, so it looks, again, very peachy. And then I have a coral fountain amaranth. And I've grown amaranth in the past, but I've never grown this shade, so this coral is very in that peachy shade, so coral amaranth. And then I love zinnias, and this is called Cinderella Peach. So obviously peach is the perfect shade to go in a peach and apricot garden. So Cinderella Peach, zinnia. And then I have Lisianthus, which I love Lisianthus. I've never grown it from seed, so this is the first time I'll be trying that this year. But the color is champagne, so look how beautiful. It's such an apricot peach color. And then the counterpoint to peachy orange is the complementary to that, of course, is blue. Blue and orange are complementary. So I'm going to be hopefully interspersing it with blues. And I love Status because it's a great dried flower. So I have a Seeker's Blue Status, which I'll show you, which is a beautiful, deep, almost an indigo blue. So we'll see if those take, and I'm going to start this year by just trying to get as many peach flowers to grow as I can, probably just in a little project I'll be sharing with you around my new chickens, my new bantams if they hatch. And then if I can get a good variety to grow, I'll save seeds and try to decide where I want the actual final peach garden to be. So this will be a fun trial year. So yes, I hope you enjoyed our walk and our outing to the antique shop and art. And oh, and I wanted to show, I also have added, on top of the bantam chicks I have in the incubator, I now have added some lovely blue eggs that will be full-size chickens, and they will look like this type of chicken here. And they are cream leg bars, and they were developed in the 30s by the gentleman Reginald Punnett, who actually invented the Punnett square, which is great for, I used to love to make Punnett squares. It's how you figured out hybridizing what color, like for example, this type of chicken bred with this type of chicken will give you this. But I digress. The point is, I've always wanted to have a flock of these chickens because they are what is known as sexed links. So that means upon hatch, the coloration of what would become a rooster and what would become a hen or a pullet is very distinct. So at hatch, I'll be able to tell how many roosters to hens I have. And they lay a lovely blue egg, which I'll show in my incubator here. It kind of looks green in the photo, but they're a beautiful robin's egg blue. So I hope you enjoyed this week's vlog. Oh, and I forgot I was going to have tea in my new mug that we got at the antique shop, so I should get that. And of course I need a pot of tea as well. So thank you again for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I did. And I shall see you in the chats. And I have a few new lovely people who've joined my Patreon and enjoying our village, which I really love. So if anyone wants to check out my Patreon page, I'll link it somewhere around here. Besides the village, I also offer, each week I offer a free download, a high-res download of a piece of my artwork, so you can have it printed on anything you choose. So yeah, check that out if you like. If not, I'm happy for you to keep coming back here, and I shall see you in the chats and in the comments. And remember, stay creative. Cheers.